Hey there, this is your host and viticulturist, Fritz Westover, and you're listening to the Vineyard Underground podcast. And we're going to be doing some myth busting today. I have with me Dr. José Ramón Úrbez-Torres. He is acclaimed research scientist and plant pathologist. He is going to be joining me today for this fun episode that we're going to call Pruning Wound Disease Myth Busting. So just in time for the pruning season, we're going to talk more about some of the things that you hear out there that may or may not be true. And we just want to dig into the details and get into the underground on those. So, hi, Jose. How's it going? And thanks for being on the show today.
Hi, Fritz. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be with you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, awesome. I've done some other collaborative work with you with things within my online community. And I know we've met at plenty of meetings and things in the past. And I remember when you were a postdoc, out in California, we ran across each other there, and you've really done a lot since then. And your name keeps coming up whenever I talk to other researchers about what's latest and greatest in pruning wound protection and grapevine trunk diseases. You're kind of part of this special group, small group of researchers that really dial down and nerd out, if you will, about grapevine trunk diseases. And so it's awesome to have you on here today. I think, Jose, you have a really interesting role as a research scientist and plant pathologist for the Canadian Agriculture Department. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got interested in the field of plant science and in particular focusing on grapevines and trunk diseases?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm originally from Spain. And as you know, Spain is the country with the largest acreage of grapes. So I remember growing up when I was a kid, and no matter where you were driving or going in Spain, you were seeing grapes everywhere, and my curiosity really started as an undergraduate student. I got an internship in one of the research stations where I was studying in my city in Valladolid. And my first work was actually looking for populations of Lobesia botryana, the grapevine moth that is a problem in Europe and in Spain. And that fascinated me, the work that me as an undergrad, just driving a truck, going there, checking for pheromone traps. And that kept me going, I really like that, asking questions, trying to collect data to answer those questions. And one thing got to the other. I did a couple of harvests in France when I was also in the university. And, one thing took me to California, where I have a scholarship from the European Union. And I was able to be with, to me, one of the best, a great plant pathologist, Dr. Gubler. And I took the chance and the opportunities, and it was fantastic. It's every day waking up, you are curious, to answer those questions and to help, to help growers. That was what kept me going. And still, I'm waking up in the morning and I want to answer those questions and try to help the growers as much as I can.
You mentioned xylem vessels. Is that the main means of which the spores are germinating and growing into? Are they traveling through primarily the xylem vessels, the water conducting vessels?
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. That's the main. I mean, if you have a pruning wound, and you make a cut, you have your xylem, you have also your phloem area, you have your pith, section in the middle. Most of these fungi, they are known to go through the xylem, it's still, live, active tissue.
Yeah, the largest of the vessels, right? You have the phloem on the outside, and then you have the xylem, and then the pith in the middle. Really, that xylem is the largest surface area represented, right? And also the largest size, entry point of all the vessels, correct?
Yeah, correct. And there has been very interesting research done, led by my colleague, Dr. Philip Rohausen in Riverside. Actually, they were looking into the size of the xylem vessels from different cultivars and different rootstocks. And they showed that the wider, the bigger those xylem vessels, because there is quite a difference, in morphology in different varieties of rootstocks. The bigger the xylem vessel, the more susceptible this cultivar rootstock is to trunk diseases.
Interesting. That just makes common sense. It's like when you think of which varieties are more drought tolerant and which are going to see cavitation from air bubble formation, those larger vessels. With Pierce's disease, maybe a xylem moving bacteria. Vinifera, the xylem was shown to move up and down through xylem vessels, but resistant varieties, it was only one direction. We can go on and on about how the physiology and differences in those structures from variety to variety affect so many things, and pruning diseases are not exempt. So I'd love to see the paper on that, so we can start putting together maybe a hierarchy of most susceptible varieties to these pruning diseases, and least. And I would even guess that within the range of diseases, we have to see what do we actually have in our regions, in our spores, because the methods of control are going to be maybe a little different, and over time we're going to determine that, with this variety and this region with these specific top 3 pathogens, here's the recommendations. And I hope we get to that level sometime.
If you allow me one comment on that, because many times grower, ask me, well, Jose, we know trunk diseases are caused by, I feel right now, if you go through the literature, maybe over 100 different fungi that they can cause trunk diseases.
Over 100. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So growers tell me, well, Jose, we didn't really care, how many fungi cause this problem, because we do a lot of work on field surveys, trying to understand, and from a grower perspective, I can see that, I can see, well, I have the disease, I need to control it. But it's very important really to know at least what is the most prevalent trunk disease in your region.
Yes.
Are you having more Eutypa? Are you having more Botrytis? And even if you have Botrytis, are you having some of the most virulent or the least virulent? Or because we know that not all the products, fungicides, work the same for all the fungi, but we know there are some specific products that work better in one disease or the other. We have some products work much better on Eutypa than on Botrytis and vice versa, for example. Including biological control. So the idea of at least, it's going to be very, very difficult to have a silver bullet to control every single of these 80 plus, 100 plus fungi. Is literally impossible.
Sure.
But if you know what is the main, problem in your region, we may start, directing that control, because we have solutions for that, and that's important to know.
I get the question a lot about pre-pruning. So someone goes through and they hedge the top half of their canes off if they're on a spur pruned cordon trained vineyard. They call this pre-pruning, rough pruning. So they're leaving about 6 or 7 buds in some cases. And then the idea is later they go in closer to bud burst once they've got, some, past the risk of freeze damage, or if they're trying to delay bud burst by delaying the final pruning, they'll go back in and do the final pruning. So there's a time period sometimes of a month or more between pre-pruning and final pruning. And growers sometimes want to know, do I need to protect the pre-pruning wounds, or is that disease not really going to move, 6 to 10 inches down into my final spur wood, or whatever that is, 10 to 40 centimeters down? So should growers be worried about their pre-pruning wounds in terms of protecting those?
My answer to that, in my opinion, is no. And the research shows that even the most virulent fungi in the trunk disease, which are found within the Botrytis dieback group.
Is that like diplopia or?
It's found in the Ascodiplodia neophysicoccus species. We have some studies in California where we saw them growing up to 1 centimeter a month.
1 centimeter a month.
It is actually quite significant movement, for a pathogen to go in, to colonize. So, but if you see, the amount of, and that I have to say is the area that you see the necrosis, and you start seeing necrosis, necrotic tissue. But we know that maybe the fungus or the pathogen can be ahead of the necrosis,
so there's a discoloration. Streaking.
Exactly. And you may count that maybe you can have another centimeter or centimeter plus, after that necrosis, that the fungi and the fungus may be there. But I personally don't know, and the research haven't shown that any of these pathogens in a range of a month or even 2 months can travel such distance. So my answer to that would be no. Save your money, and we do that, and in California, and we did that research as well. My colleagues did that research. Double pruning was recommended, and the whole idea of double pruning is yes, we can make a prune, early on the season. Is also gonna really facilitate the last pruning,